Cassidy-Rae was a hit at this year's Tamworth Country Music Festival, and I know because I encountered some people who quite randomly came across her playing a fan zone and said, oh, there was this amazing young woman and she was playing a keyboard. I said, I know exactly who you're talking about. Cassidy-Rae has a new single called Lately, and we're going to talk about that and also some adventures she's about to have. Hello, Cassidy-Rae.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yes, they were friends of friends, and they just happened to mention they'd seen you and they were describing what you look like. I said, yes, I know. And she is wonderful. So your latest single is Lately, and it really tugs on the heartstrings. So I was wondering if you could talk about the inspiration for it.
Yeah, well, I was actually, as B talking about piano, I was sitting down and chatting with a partner of mine at the time, an ex, and we had this on-off, very toxic, emotionally abusive relationship. Not that I'd realized that at the time, but a very toxic relationship. And you kind of have those moments in the relationships where you kind of go, do we go back? Do we try it again? Do we see if we can work this out? And we were having this conversation, and this is a true conversation. I found these words haunting my subconscious and found myself drawn to my piano, where I wrote out our conversation of, what if we did go back? And lately you have been on my mind. Should we return? Should we try and take another swing at this? And I'm very perfectly single, which should kind of answer the question of what I did. But yeah, I ended up going into the studio with my good friend and talented producer, Michael Carpenter. And I said, I've written this song on piano, but it doesn't work on the piano. I need it on this guitar. And we kind of fleshed this out, and we'd written down the guitar and we'd sung the song, and I was kind of like, it's done. And he went, what? He's like, there should be some drums, there should be some extra things. And I was like, no, this song is done, and it's ready to go. I wanted it as raw and as vulnerable as possible, and I kind of wanted this stripped back version, because that's what my heart was in this moment. This whole right before you make a decision of, I see so many artists going, oh, I'm now perfectly single, or oh, I've made the choice to go back again, or oh, I feel guilty, and it's always that moment afterwards. And I kind of wanted to stop and freeze that moment in time, because I found that so emotionally powerful, and so unspoken about, that moment right before you make the choice of just sitting in that confusion of what on earth do I do? What, I'm at this fork in the road, what choice am I going to make? And that's where Lately came from, and it's one of my favorite songs. I was really nervous about releasing it, but I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, it's lovely and vulnerable, and partly why it's so vulnerable is I think it seems one-sided. Like you were saying, it came out of a conversation you had with this ex, but it feels like it's all you saying it. So it's basically you laying yourself bare to this person saying, I've been thinking about you. What if we give it another chance? So that's risky to have that conversation.
And it kind of feels like this one-sided conversation while it is a two-sided conversation. And, it adds to that confusion and that element of curiosity of you're talking to yourself and you're relaying this conversation and having it over in your head and going, he said this, and, what do I think about it and how do I feel? And it's just this pure raw moment that I wanted to capture. And, I've listened to this song hundreds, if not thousands of times, going, there are so many moments in my life where I've relayed a conversation and replayed it over and over and what they've said, and then trying to figure out how I feel about it. And that's what this is about. So, yeah.
And I think we should also pause to acknowledge that you have the single artwork on that mug.
Yeah, I just got dropped this off by the tea fairy. She's like, I can hear you talking. You must require tea. So this is my Lately teacup. I have teacups for everything because I love tea.
Who does not? It's a very comforting drink. I'm interested that you said that the piano wasn't right for the song. And what was that technical decision that made you say that?
Honestly, when I am songwriting, I can hear everything coming together in my head. It's never oh, I decided that it's going to have this. It's just no, I need to finish what's going on in my head. It's like having a word on the tip of your tongue and you're I know what it is. I know what it sounds like, and it's going to feel so good when it comes off the tip of my tongue. So whenever I'm sitting down to play, I kind of go into this subconscious version and try and let my heart and my soul speak. I really want to let that deep breath go. And so I kind of find myself just sitting there and going, all right, it's done. Now let me reflect and figure out what I've just heard in my head and then try and write it down. So Michael Carpenter can kind of help me build it and bring it to life. So when I was playing it, I went, it's not sounding right. It needs to sound better. It's the guitar. And the minute I'd finished the sentence, I was like, I can hear what it sounds like in my head. I'm done.
Right.
So it was never like, I just thought the guitar had a different tonality. It was always just, that's how it was in my head, and that's how I needed it to come out at this time, which is different for every song. So every song sounds different.
Well, and that's great because you're the songwriter and you can decide that.
Yeah, I can.
And you have a collaborator in Michael who can help you bring that to life. And that's a fantastic relationship to have.
Yeah. We've been working for quite a long time together. I kind of just think it was all the way back to a song called More, which was 2019. So 3 years plus now. And from the minute I walked in, I kind of have a very different relationship with music because it's such a piece of my heart and because it's so close to me, and I'm not co-writing with anybody else. It's my work. It means that there's a lot of vulnerability and a lot of nerves to try and get this right and be able to let my soul speak its truth. And thankfully he's so collaborative. In the very first moment, he was like, I want to help you bring this to life, not I want to take this in my own direction and make my own twist on it and add my own colored tainted glasses to it. It was very much this is your work and I can help you do what you need to do. And he does it in the most beautiful way. We have so much fun. We finish each other's sandwiches and sentences literally. I love him so much. I can't wait to go back into the studio very soon with him. So fingers crossed it'll be just as good.
And good news for us that there might be new music coming now.
Always new music.
Lately is, as we talked about, a song about thinking about having a second chance, maybe or maybe not taking a second chance on love or with that person. I'm wondering if there are any second chances, not necessarily romantic, that you regret not taking.
Well, I'm always a big fan of never regret what you've done because it leads you to where you are. So even with relationships, I don't regret the toxic relationship or, the relationship I just shouldn't have been in, because it always led me to this moment and allowed me to grow as a person. I think in life, I've kind of taken the same approach. My parents always raised me on the idea, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And thankfully I was presented with so many opportunities where I had the ability to really take leaps of faith and take opportunities with both hands. So, any moment I got, I was able to go, I really want to do this. From, flying halfway around the world without my family to perform at the launch of World Kindness France as a youth ambassador for World Kindness. And it kind of happened within a couple of weeks. And I just went, I've been offered a trip to go to Paris and play this song. I've been offered to write a song. I'm going to do it. And they went, okay, how can we facilitate you to live out your dreams? So there's not really ever been a moment that I regret not taking or regret taking. I'm very grateful for everything. Which kind of sounds super bad, but I'm like, I haven't had a bad day, because I've had really bad days. Yeah. I just wouldn't regret the bad days. Yeah. I love them because they've led to really good days.
Yeah. You're not wasting time or energy regretting things.
I think so. And, even with I questioned being on a cruise ship going, should I be on a cruise ship or should I be doing this? I loved it. It taught me so much, and I can't regret things because I'm here and I get to chat with you and I get to share music and I get to connect with so many friends around the world. How could any person regret that?
I think that is a beautiful life philosophy. And the songs you are releasing to fans, some of your songs are very upbeat, as we've talked about in the past, and this is a more reflective song, and you have had other songs that are more reflective. And obviously these are parts of your storytelling and your musical personality that you're expressing. I'm wondering if there is a conscious pattern to how you release, because obviously if you're recording maybe more than one at a time, then you think about how you release them. So I'm interested in that part of it.
I have written quite a lot of songs, and a lot of them are positive. However, if you actually listen to a lot of them, some of them are really negative. They just sound upbeat because somebody once said that I lived in a bubble, an ex, said that I lived in a bubble, that I never saw the outside world or that it's reality. And I went, well, I'm aware of it. I just choose to focus on the positive, or I choose to spin something in a positive light. And I want to be that positive person and that positive platform online. So I kind of like to share some upbeat songs. And then, yes, I do make a conscious choice to be like, well, let's just show a different side of me at least once a year, that I can be, you know, I'm not always this happy-go-lucky person. I can acknowledge that there are really unfortunate situations or really sad moments in life, but that it's okay to look at them so that then we can twist them into something positive and something, you know, even with this song, it's such a confusing song, and there's no like happiness to it other than the fact that I'm very happily single, but there's no happiness to the song. So I've written it and I've gone, you know, if you're out there and you're feeling this, now you know that you're not the only one going through it alone, and it's okay. So yeah, definitely like to have some vulnerability each and every year, to share kind of those moments that people are going through, because everybody goes through ups and downs every year, and it's okay not to always be on that high. That being said, I do love upbeat songs. I love dancing with people and raising a glass and saying cheers and spreading smiles and good cheer. So yeah.
Well, the person who told you that you live in a bubble and don't live in the real world because you like to be upbeat possibly needs to be dropped on his head. Because, you know, it's what a lovely thing to offer the world, that you actually want to bring positivity.
But, you know, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And because that they mentioned that, and because it's stuck in my head, you know, it allowed me to go, all right, maybe I should share something that's not always positive to show you that I can. I'm choosing still through that to have a positive outlook, rather than just always sharing sad songs. So everything always, like, I have a gift, I feel, that I can just twist things into something that is encouraging and positive and uplifting. And I think that there are so many people out there that want to focus on the negative, that I just want to be this place and space online and in person that, you know, people can come to for comfort and for smiles and for joy, and feeling like their heart is being spoken. Like they're getting, when words fail, music speaks, and their words were failing and they're not anymore. So
yeah. And you've mentioned the platform, and you do have a very close relationship with your fans, and you're great at doing that across various social media platforms. I'm wondering, therefore, if they have strong opinions when you release a song, say, like lately, where they're thinking, well, that's not like the last song. I want more of like the last song. So do they express opinions to you about that?
Surprisingly, yes. I get a lot of opinions on what people want me to release, and my community, I can't call them fans because I talk to them way too much to be anything less than friends, and, you know, friends are the family that you choose. So this very community is so supportive of this journey. I have them absolutely falling in love with Damn It Feels Right, which I released earlier this year, going, you know, it's my new favorite song. I love this. This is the anthem for this year. And then they listen to it lately and they're like, we listened to the preview on iTunes and we burst out crying. And I'm like, all right, so it's going with you. So thankfully it's all been extremely positive and supportive. And I'm sure with the next song, they're going to be just as much on the bandwagon, joining in on the train as much as I am. So yeah, no, it's been quite a good response.
Well, and I'm sure some of those fans were amongst the people who voted for you to get the People's Choice Award for Best Female Vocal at Tamworth this year. And given that you have been releasing music for not that long, you know, since 2019, really, that's not that long a time. That must be really gratifying to get an award like that.
I mean, I was speechless. I was overwhelmed. I think I brought the people around me that came with me to support me to tears, because it was as much my award as it was theirs. Like, I really can't take credit for anything anymore. With any accolades that I get, they're no longer mine. But no, I was blown away that, you know, to receive that honor and to try and fill the shoes of the talented females before me, and kind of step into that role of best female vocal and make sure that I'm living up to the title. But no, I was freaking out. I was performing and I was walking down the aisle away from the crowd, going to the back of the room, and then they started calling out my name, and I kind of like did this double take of like, what? I didn't think I just thought I was coming here to play. This was awesome. So yeah, it was definitely a great moment in Tamworth. And I can't wait for next year's Tamworth. I'm already got some shows locked in. I just booked my accommodation today, which I'm feeling like really gratified.
Congratulations. Yeah.
It is an achievement just to get accommodation.
It is. Yeah. Otherwise you could find that you're in a tent far out of town.
Yeah. But thankfully, Tamworth is like a family. So I've been going to this same accommodation place for a couple of years now. So they just like call me up. I'm like, hi, it's Cassidy. And they're like, oh my gosh, hello, how have you been? And so we like had a good like chat for like an hour or something before I was like, oh yeah, by the way, I need to book accommodation.
Yeah. Well, you've also answered my question about your plans for Tamworth. So obviously things are happening, and because of course the festival was in April and it is already September, this is around the time things are getting locked in for next year. It just feels very soon.
Doesn't it just? I keep like going, oh, I haven't seen this person in like, oh, it's only been a couple of months. It hasn't been a year. Alrighty. No, but I'm so excited because I'll be traveling a lot more now that the restrictions have eased. I'm getting out on the road. I'm getting out on planes and boats and trains and everything that I can to start sharing my music again and sharing these songs. I was very lucky with COVID though, because I was a little bit sneaky and I got in a camper van, and every time there was like a lockdown that kind of like took it back and they were like, yeah, we can ease on these restrictions, go for gold. I kind of went, alrighty, let's go to Broken Hill, let's go to Adelaide, let's go to Queensland. And then just as we got into Queensland, I was like, New South Wales shut their borders, and I was like, alrighty, well, we'll just stay in Queensland for a couple of weeks and travel around and share my originals and release a new song, and that'll be fine. And then they were like, yes, New South Wales is their restrictions, but Queensland is about to get into a lockdown by 4 p.m. Get out of the state. And I'm like, we're going to go back into Byron Bay, aren't we? So we just took on the drive. So I love driving. I love traveling. I cannot wait next year to get out on the road and come perform. So if anybody out there is watching and wants me to come to their town, please let me know. I'd love to come see them. But yeah, I'll be sharing my music and traveling the country and the world. It's going to be great.
Well, yes, because you did mention planes, and continuing the theme of the single lately, which is about, you know, a former flame. You are about to return to a former flame, which is the United States of America, because you were working around the world on cruise ships and doing other things before the pandemic, and you have quite a following in the US. So what's happening in the United States? Where are you going?
I've been offered an international residency with Carnival, so I fly off in 3 days, I think. I don't know at the dates anymore. I tell you, I'm
as long as you're on the plane on time.
I finished Skimpy Music Master and I got home and I was like, yeah, I'm leaving like 2 weeks. And my family was like, no, I think it's like 7 days that you're leaving. I'm like, I haven't, what? I need to pack. So yeah, I leave and I start September 6th, and I will be performing in Seattle, Washington, and then making my way to the Hawaii Islands, and then eventually the Pacific Islands before I come back to Sydney on October. And then I'll be performing back up in Brisbane and then traveling off again. It never stops. It won't stop, really. So yeah, it's very exciting. Carnival offered me this residency to celebrate the release of Lately, and it's going to be great to go back to my second love, US. I have so many friends over there, and I've definitely missed being over in the States and saying, hey y'all, and people not like doing a double take at me being like, is she in the wrong place?
So I was also going to ask you about going back to cruises, but there you are. You're going to be performing on cruise ships again.
Just for a little while. It was this opportunity that I just couldn't say no to. And funnily enough, I know I talk a lot, but when
Cassidy, you're being interviewed. You are allowed to talk.
when the borders shut that day, I think it was March 18th, 2020, shall it live on in history. I was actually meant to set sail from Sydney to Hawaii. And so it's kind of like I'm coming full circle when they were like, well, come from Hawaii to Sydney then. And I was like, okay, I want to do this. That and the fact that I love being able to perform. I love being able to share my music. And my family and I have a running competition about who's been to more places in the world. And currently my dad is winning. And they've both been to Hawaii, my family. And so I have to go just to one up them.
But also you have to go because it's an incredibly beautiful place. It's,
super beautiful, As long as I touch down on the land, I'm good.
Yeah, oh, I see. Right. Okay.
The competition is rife. We got a magnetic board. It's a huge corkboard. It sits in our lounge room. We sit and pin where we've been all over the world, and the competition never ends.
That is indeed quite competitive. Well, I'm glad to know that you will be adding to that in the next few weeks.
People are like, no, I want to go to the beaches. I want to see the volcano. I'm like, no, I want the pin on the board. I want to win.
That's right. It's not necessarily a bad thing. Keeps your scalpel sharp or something like that. Now, given that you have had all these experiences and releasing music and making connections with fans, I am wondering, what do you love most about your work?
I think the friendships. I think something that when I first started writing music, for me, it was always this idea that when words fail, music speaks. I first wrote my song called Be Strong back when I was 15, and it was literally just after I'd found out that one of my best friends, Daniela Meads Barlow, passed away in her sleep. And I found out of all places on Facebook. And she had type 1 diabetes, dead in bed syndrome, where basically you go into a hypoglycemic reaction and you just never wake. And her parents found out the next morning that there's alarms in America that can actually wake the carers. So her death could have actually been prevented. And, I found out by seeing all of these RIPs fill my Facebook feed, which is like, as a 15-year-old, losing one of your best friends is like the worst way to find out. And thankfully, her family has done absolutely incredible things. Over nearly $1 million raised bringing these alarms into the country so that no other parent can go through this situation again. And they have balls every year. And it's incredible the work that they've done in honor of Danny. But for me, it always started out as when words fail, music speaks. I couldn't fathom how to deal with this loss that I turned to my piano and wrote out Be Strong. And, I had a artist development program at the time, and with Oxygen Music Group, which is now Red Dog Recording, and they said, we think that this is a beautiful song, and we think that it could be more than just your pain. It can be turned into a song of hope, which is kind of like what started me on this journey. And they turned it into an anti-bullying anthem, which was absolutely beautiful. I got to tour that around the country and share this at schools and share this message of hope and togetherness and connectedness. So for me, it's always been about speaking when I didn't have the words anymore and singing that. And as I've slowly performed and evolved and grown this community, it's become less about my words that have failed, but my community, my friends and my family. And they're going through trials and tribulations, and I hear it and I feel I never go and sit down and go, I'm going to write about this. I kind of just soak in everything that I can of life and its experiences and relationships. I'm so fascinated by relationships, and I found myself then drawn like a magnet to my keys or to my guitar, and out comes this song that is almost speaking my stories, but speaking their stories, and allowing them to feel like they have a voice, or feel like this weight is being lifted off their shoulders because they're not going through it alone and they feel acknowledged and heard. So for me, it's always been about the connection, about those relationships, and being able to be a voice and be a positive platform for people around the world. And that's always what's kind of inspired me and encouraged me to continue.
Well, that is a fantastic answer. And I'm wondering, if given that the past couple of years have been challenging, but you made the most of them by getting in that camper van and going across borders, I'm wondering if there is anything about your job that you find challenging.
Oh my gosh, all the time. I mean, there's so many things that I find challenging, or so many words just came into my head, other people's opinions, industry's opinions, not being good enough, which is something that I've always faced constantly. Not being the right country, not being in the right country, being too happy, being too positive. Then it's always the idea of, you're doing so much and it's not enough, it's not gaining enough traction, which, how can I really say that when I have like 6 consecutive number ones, and I'm Southern Midlands Community Country Music Entertainer of the Year and Australian Country Music People's Choice Awards Best Female Vocal, and all these other incredible accolades. And I still go, I struggle to get people to pre-order or to pre-save or to keep streaming the songs just after they've released. But I think that just can't, every job has its trials. Oh, that, and also kangaroos. which is a very weird thing to say, but I used to have cars. I used to have cars growing up. My family used to have cars growing up. I used to drive them, never get hit. We get in a camper van, mum's driving because mum always takes me out on the road and she's roadie. She's driving, camper van, never get hit. We get a new car. We're on the road between Double and Broken Hill, kangaroo. We get on the road all the way down to, where were we? I think we're going to Young. And right 15 minutes before I'm set to perform for another like 3 hours, hit, completely battered by a kangaroo. It felt like a boxing match, except the kangaroo I saw jumped away and our car did not. The entire left side was destroyed. And they were like, cool, we've got to perform in like half an hour, 15 minutes to get there, 15 minutes to set up. Put that out of the back of my mind. So I think that's one of the funniest trials that I seem to face. And I've now learnt the lesson. Don't drive at dawn or dusk.
Yeah, that's kangaroo o'clock. Yeah.
Yep. So performing, that's been my biggest thing. Just ignore the whole fact of like being good enough and everything. I'm going to go with kangaroos. That's going to be my final answer.
Except the issue of being good enough or not is an interesting one, because one could argue that if you didn't feel that, you might not have as much impetus to keep getting better and keep trying to write better songs and become a better performer and a better singer.
Yeah, that's so true. Like, I think a little bit of nerves is always good. And, you know, with every song that I release, I always feel like nervous sharing this little piece of pie or a piece of my heart that has been mine for so long. And now I get to share it with the world and go, okay, what do you think? Yeah. And you know, like I sit down in the recording studio and I could sit there for months on end and tweak and twinge and make it even more perfect. But somebody said to me a very long time ago that the way to stop and go, it's done, is to realize that you are who you are in this chapter, and you get to go to the next chapter and you get to flip that page over and become a new person and evolve and tweak the next song. So yeah, I mean, I always get really nervous and feel like it's not good enough. And I'll still look back at songs and be like, oh, I probably would have added something there. And I go, oh, no. It's as it is. It's perfect for what it was meant to do. And it's perfect for the person that I was. So yeah, I agree with you.
And I think that's a perfect spot to end as well. It's a very good note. The latest single is Lately. It sounds like there'll be more singles coming soon, which is great news. Happy travels, safe travels.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's always so much fun chatting to you. I appreciate you.
Thank you for your time.